This is a powered Lionel F3 decorated for Amtrak, and it's operated by a single motor. It's from the MPC era of the 1970s, and it's in reasonably good condition. Today I'd like to spruce up its appearance, and I'm going to restrict my refurbishing to the black areas, so the roof, frame, and trucks will look a lot better when I'm done. I haven't made up my mind about the silver, which is also a bit far away from perfect. Some areas could be resprayed, but it's complicated by the placement of the graphics, which are decals that Lionel applied more than 50 years ago. The first step of any refurbishment or restoration project is always the disassembly. So one screw up front and then two clips in the back are all that hold the shell to the frame. Once it's loose, you can see how the horns and the windshield were attached. They just melted the pieces together. So I'll have to do a little bit of grinding. This horn came out easily though, and the other one is just gone. The original horns were plastic with a little bit of chrome plating, and they didn't hold up too well over the years. So I bought some replacements on eBay that are metal. They're either chromed metal or maybe they're some sort of polished nickel. I'm not really sure, but it definitely will be an upgrade, an improvement. My first thought was just to respray the back of the shell, using this front line as a masking point between the old and the new paint. But after a little more looking, I could see that there were some nicks on the nose too that I couldn't just touch up. So the whole roof is going to be repainted a satin black. And the same paint will be used on this frame and the trucks. It's more of a flat black now, but I think having a matching finish on this piece as well as the roof will tie both things together. Even this apron is in pretty rough shape, and there's a lot of nicks. So everything comes apart and will get repainted. I was hoping that the side truck frames would be held on with screws, but no such luck. They're stamped to the truck assembly pretty permanently, so those will just have to be masked off and repainted as one unit. These wires are from the front pickup roller and also the headlamp bulb, so I'll just disconnect those temporarily. Later on, after everything has been repainted, I'll resolder them. There are basically three parts to the bottom end of this engine, and I'm going to have to really give them a good cleaning before I can think about repainting them. Some degreaser will help get rid of all the grime and the oil. I'll scrub also with a toothbrush, And that's all before I come back with some wet or dry sandpaper and blend in the nicks and the rougher areas on both this piece and the trucks. For these trucks and the front apron and the base, I'm just using regular masking tape along with a little bit of blue painter's tape to keep areas from the black overspray. That's good enough here because everything is basically just one color, and I'm not worried about a line between silver or black. When I get to the shell, I'm going to use a slightly different kind of tape that's a little more precise and a little bit gentler on the older finishes, when you pull it off. I'm not trying to fool anyone that this base is original and it's like in mint condition, but I do want it to look as good as possible. I'm happy with this satin paint. It's still a little bit shinier than what was on here originally, but I think it's going to match well with the roof color. These turned out pretty well. I was a little bit worried about some overspray finding its way onto these silver wheel sets, but it didn't happen. Even on the interior sides, it still looks pretty much factory fresh. A little shinier, but really good. I like it a lot. A little bit of time has gone by, maybe a day or so, and the paint is pretty well cured, and it's hard enough where I can start putting things back together without risking any unwanted nicks. And the reassembly is pretty much just the reverse of the unassembly or disassembly. Anyway, it goes back together pretty easily. With the powered base pretty well sorted, it's time to remove that cab glass from the shell. And remember how it was melted together? Well, I want to be careful about removing it. I don't want to crack it, so I just carefully grind away little bits here and there until it pops free. Now the shell is also pretty dirty, so it gets the same cleaning and scrubbing as the base did, but just a little more gently. I don't want to mess up those decals. They are pretty old. I think they're pretty tough, but I don't want to risk damaging them. So I go very gently and very carefully. Then it's time for a little more wet sanding to blend in the nicks and scratches. This yellow tape is by Tamiya. It's for fine scale models, and I would call this Amtrak unit a fine scale model. What it does, it gives you a very nice, crisp line between contrasting colors. If you spray light coats, you will not have anything seeping through behind it, and it's gentle on the older paint too as you pull it away. I've used some notebook paper and some blue painter's tape just up to the edge of the Tamiya before I take it outside and give it its fresh coat of satin spray paint. When I was masking this shell, I made sure that none of the blue tape was touching any area even near a decal. I'm still careful when I pull it off because I've had some bad experience of even this blue painter's tape removing some of the metallic flake from silver paints. This turned out fine, and I tried to limit my blue tape to just contacting with that Tamiya tape, and it worked well. The silver is fine, the decals are fine, and what I'm left with is a very nice, pretty much factory looking roof on this Amtrak shell. I'm not 100% sure, but I think back in the day these were assembled in Michigan. And if you were looking at just the roof alone, you might think this just came off the assembly line. The silver and the red kind of let it down, but still, overall, this is an improvement. And so our story comes to a conclusion. From certain angles, and without too much close inspection, this looks pretty good again. I'm happy with it. Look at these trucks. They are a little shinier than factory fresh. Back in the 70s, these would have been sort of a flat paint, but I'm still very happy with the way they turned out. And the roof is pretty much spot on what an Amtrak F3 would have looked like in 1975. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this has been Bob's Workshop. Take care.